up, humans? My name is David, and I help people develop self-awareness and self-compassion. And welcome to another Blue Chair Talk. Blue Chair Talks are weekly unscripted chats where I'm usually sharing stuff that I am learning about self-awareness and self-compassion, usually revolving around personality and meditation. And then I also followed up with a guided meditation each week. Usually lasts about a total of 20 minutes. So today I want to talk about three-dimensional humanity. And I meant to bring a block, like a square, no, a cube that has three dimensions. But I forgot. So just imagine you have this cube. I was like, square, block. Anyway, you have this cube and it's one thing, right? It's kind of how we think of it, but it has three dimensions. So imagine if you start at one corner, you got a line, right? A corner that goes this way, you got another corner that goes that way, and a third corner that goes this way, and they meet there. Anyway, those are the three dimensions. And that's a pretty great picture or idea for conceiving of the human experience. Also, I feel like this is sort of kitsch, or I don't know, three-dimensional humanity. Sounds very silly, but I think it is extremely helpful. Now, just one caveat. We are unitary. No, we are, I don't know. These divisions into these three parts of us, they are metaphorical. They are not really three separable parts. And we're going to talk about how that's the case, how these parts are intertwined. But also, just like there can be three dimensions to this one cube, it can be really helpful for a deeper understanding of the human experience, and certainly for developing empathy and compassion for other people who are experiencing reality differently. It's usually along these lines of these three dimensions of humanity. Okay, so these three dimensions are the body for doing, right? That is kind of what the body is for embodied action in the world. So the body, feelings, and thoughts. So, like I mentioned, the body is for doing, but it's also where we experience affect. Affect is just a fancy word, sort of for emotions that you feel in your body. Think of this as like if you get angry enough, your body starts to feel quite different, right? Or if you get scared enough, maybe you have a public speaking engagement or a snake in your house or something like really intense, that stuff you feel. We have affect going on all the time, these embodied emotions. We just don't always realize it because it's not always as intense, but we always have maybe like a little bit of fear or a little bit of excitement or enthusiasm. That's maybe the most common, unless you're severely depressed, then that's not very common, very sad. Anyway, there are these embodied emotions, this affect, and those serve the purpose of putting us into action, right? So the body is for action. That's one of the dimensions of human experience. Feelings, what the heck are feelings? I don't know. We'll come back to that. Thoughts, that's relatively straightforward. In our mind, feels like it's inside of us, right? In our mind, we have thoughts. We have sometimes fully formed sentences that are going on in our brain. Usually it's not eloquent, fully formed sentences that are going on in our brain, right? They're sort of fragments of sentences and these incomplete thoughts, and we're rehearsing that one experience where we didn't have the comeback that we wanted to in the moment, but if I could do it again right now, then I would tell Sally this, and that would be so great. Anyway, those are thoughts, but like I mentioned, they're not always eloquently formed sentences. They're more these half-baked, half-formed sentences, and sometimes they don't involve actual words at all. They're sort of this imagined scenario, a narrative, perhaps. And that's where we're sliding back, leaning towards feelings, right? Because these stories that are going on in our mind whether or not there are some words involved or fully formed sentences, the feelings involved in these stories in our minds, those are always there too. And so one of the ways that I like to explain feelings to people is they're sort of the tone of voice of your thoughts. You can also think of them as moods. Moods are usually longer lasting, if that makes sense. They stick around, right, for a while, whereas feelings are a little more up and down. They come and go a little faster than moods. But either way, that's how I usually like to explain the feelings dimension of the human experience. And that is maybe the most complicated, the trickiest to notice. It's more tangible. It's easier to sort of look at maybe one of your body parts, like my knee. My knee really hurts. And that's quite concrete. And I can really point my attention toward a feeling in my body and identify it. Similar, not as easy as that, but similar, if I have a clear story going in my mind, if I have fully formed sentences, I can say, I just thought, fill in the blank and share your thought with someone, right? And that can be quite concrete and comparatively easy to identify, whereas feelings are sort of the trickiest. I remember one of my fondest memories, it was not fun at the time, but I remember my mom encouraging me to learn to articulate my feelings. And I was almost offended. I was like, what? Whatever, Mom. But she was right. Of course. This is an incredibly valuable skill and incredibly difficult work to try to get better at that. So, with this introduction here, briefly, of the 3 dimensions, right, of the human experience, the purpose of this is to help you continue to develop self-awareness and also self-compassion, right? A lot of that has to do with recognizing your priorities, or maybe another way of saying that would be your strengths and your weaknesses when it comes to these 3 dimensions of the human experience. You may not have yet realized it in your life, but all of us, it seems, have a sort of priority, a preferred one of these dimensions, and usually also we have one that is unpreferred, that is comparatively weak. So everybody else also has that kind of a setup going on, and maybe you are even married to someone who has different priority set. Maybe your spouse or someone that you relate to closely has a high priority for doing and a really low priority for feelings. And maybe you're the opposite. That sounds understandably difficult to navigate. Anyway, this is part of our reality, part of our lived experience as humans, and gaining awareness of this is pretty tricky, but no surprise, and smooth segue into meditation. In meditation, there are, yes, different forms of meditation, but by and large, one of the things you're going to be doing is focusing on physical sensations. This allows for this discernment skill to continue to increase. As you do this, you're able to notice the feelings in your body and often the emotions that are there present in your body and how that influences your feelings and then sort of therefore your thoughts. This is extremely helpful. One concrete example of this is the difference between pain and suffering. When I hurt my knees, let's say, for example, maybe I went jogging this past week and then my knees hurt for a whole day. This involves or entails lots of extra thinking about, oh man, why are they hurting? Is this going to be a long-term thing? Long story short, it generates a lot of worry. Well, that is suffering. And that is something that's actually distinct. It is not the same phenomenon, the same thing as the pain in your knees. So many emotions have a sort of dichotomy along those lines where there's just the pure, in the moment physical experience. And when we can notice the difference between that and the feelings and thoughts we're having in reaction to the current experience, man, that is powerful. Okay, that's enough of the jabbering and the explaining for today. Let's switch gears and let's settle in for meditation. I'm so excited sharing this stuff with you. I'm finding myself as if I'm hitting the brakes really hard. So I'm gonna take a little extra time here in this transition and sort of slow my roll. Calm down my body, right? Because my mind is so excited it's affecting my body. Feels good though. Feels good to be excited. All right. I don't know how excited you are. I don't know what is going on in your life, but I hope it's good stuff. And I hope if you're joining me with this meditation that you can take some deep breaths as well as you settle in and bring your attention and awareness fully into the present moment. Fully into what is going on in your body right now. And over the next 8 or 9 minutes here, notice when your attention has drifted off, been captured by some narrative, by some collection of feelings, and just simply come back to your experience in the body. All right. Closing our eyes. You can use the sensations of the breath at the nose as an anchor for today. And every time you recognize distraction, I know it can be frustrating, but this is the perfect opportunity to recognize that what's going on is a story. A gorgeous interplay between thoughts and feelings. Some kind of narrative that in this moment, now that you've recognized it, you are able to let go of it and quite simply come back to this present moment. whatever your initial reaction is once you recognize distraction, that's okay. Whatever feelings you have, frustration is very common, maybe surprise. It can be surprising how frequently we become distracted. Those reactions are okay, but see if you can perhaps step back even further to recognize that you can also become aware of your reactions to realizing you've become distracted. There is a part of you that can notice those feelings and not actually be affected by those feelings. It's simply aware. And that is the part of you that can lovingly settle back in to just plain awareness of this present moment. Alrighty, my friends. As we wrap up today's Blue Chair Talk, I want to invite you throughout the course of this week, whether or not you do any formal meditation practice, this week try to notice that you have your actual primary experience in the moment, and you also have stories you're telling yourself about your experiences and what they mean. Me and my loved ones will frequently use this language of the story I'm telling myself is, and it's a very helpful way to start articulating our feelings. Maybe you've had a difficult interaction with your boss. There was the primary experience, but then as you replay that experience throughout the rest of the day, you have these extrapolations of what that interaction with your boss actually means about you, or what might result from that in the future. And these stories are not good or bad necessarily. Just being aware that there is sort of that secondary layer, man, it is so helpful. All right, that's it for today. I hope you have a wonderful week. I hope I see you again here next week for another Blue Chair Talk. Until next week, know your mind, love your life.